This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is now time for the West Basin Municipal Water District board meeting, regular board meeting, and we will start now. And first, we will now have roll call. We will now roll call to now we have roll call.
Yes, Director Alvarez. Here. Director Deal. Here. Director Gray.
Here.
Director Houston. Here. President Williams.
Here. Now we will have roll call, please. We just did that, didn't we? So then we'll have Pledge of Allegiance, and Julie, would you please be kind enough to lead us?
Certainly. Everyone will please stand, place your hand across your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, all. We'll go to item 4, public comment.
President Williams, we have not received any public comment requests via our cell system. However, if there's any member of the public here that would like to speak, please let us know.
Okay. Item 5 is presentations. Do we have any presentations?
President Williams, we do not have any staff presentations.
Then any items do not to be agendized.
We have no items to be agendized.
Then that takes us to item 7, which is consent calendar. And
I'm going to approve the consent calendar.
is there a second? A second. It's been moved and seconded that the consent calendar be approved. Roll call, please.
Director Alvarez.
I was there to be reflecting around 7E, which I was abstaining on.
Abstain on 7E.
Yes. Okay.
Director Deal. Yes. Director Gray.
Yes.
Director Houston.
Yes.
President Williams.
Yes.
Passes 4-1.
Okay.
Excuse me. 5-0 with the exception of item 7E, which is 4-0 to 1.
Okay. Next item, number 8, is the action calendar.
Yes, President Williams. The first item we have on our action calendar is an item that was received at our November 10th Engineering and Operations Committee meeting. This item was moved to the board without a recommendation. The item is a converted filters Tower 22 booster pump station at the Edward C. Ritter Water Recycling Facility. For this presentation, we do have our Executive Manager of Engineering and Operations, Mark Masurian. We also have our Executive Manager of Finance, Margaret Moja, online or in her office, joining us via Zoom for today's presentation. With that, I'll hand it over to Barkhead.
Thank you, EJ. Good afternoon, President Williams and board members. The action item I'm presenting today is just as a reminder is on packet page 56. The item calls for the construction award of the converted filter Title 22 booster pump station project. Several updates on this particular project were provided to the E&O committee throughout the course of the design phase of the project. As you can see in attachment A on page 59, we provided a project update. We last provided a project update on this item back in April. As you mentioned, this particular action item was also presented in November 10 E&O committee meeting and was placed on this agenda as an action item. So my report to you today, I'd like to briefly touch on what is the project, what are the project's drivers, and what would the project's implementation mean for the district before I read staff's recommendation. The project calls for the construction of pumping facilities at the Edward C. Ritter Water Recycling Facility to solve a capacity bottleneck issue for our Title 22 recycled water filtration system. There are 4 filters that are supposed to give us about 10 million gallons per day of capacity, but because of a hydraulic conveyance bottleneck, we are only able to pull about 2.5 million gallons per day at a time from the 4 filters. This project is not a rehab project, it's not an R&R project. The proposed pumping facility is a new facility that will help us realize the full potential capacity of the 4 existing filtration basins. So we know how West Basin receives secondary effluent from the Hyperion Reclamation Treatment Facility. That secondary effluent comes to ECL, and from the secondary effluent we produce 4 product lines. One is the advanced water treatment that we send to the barrier. The 2 other product lines are the high pressure, low pressure boiler feed that we send to Chevron. And then the remaining, approximately half the recycled water that we produce from ECL is that Title 22 disinfected tertiary that we send out to the distribution system to serve the customers and to serve the 3 satellite plants. So the new pumping facilities that this project would install was part of that Title 22 filtration system. That serves, again, the Chevron refinery, the nitrified boiler feed on the Marathon refinery, the nitrified boiler feed we serve for the Torrance refinery, not to mention the tertiary recycled water that goes to all the parks and schools within West Basin service area, City of Torrance service area, and City of LA service area. So there are contractual obligations tied to our Title 22 recycled water product line, as well as regulatory implications, as our Title 22 compliance point is just downstream of the Title 22 filtration basins. So the criticality of the project is not only tied to realizing a missing capacity in the filtration system, but also making sure that we have enough redundancy to our system to reliably meet our obligations and commitments, and also making sure we are compliant in delivering that Title 22 recycled water. It is also worth mentioning that the other product lines at ECL, the backwash from the microfiltration and the RO membranes goes to our filtration basins as well. So there's an indirect benefit there to the other product lines. Why implement this project now? While boosting the filtration capacity by 7.5 MGD, which is what this project does, would help us meet new increased demands from Chevron, Torrance Refinery, Marathon Refinery, and maybe even support future groundwater augmentation efforts from our satellite facilities. This is not the primary reason for implementing this project at this time. The main reason for doing it now is the condition of our filtration systems. As the filtration systems continue to age, and since MBR water from the city of LA is still likely to be 15 or 20 years away from realization, we need to stretch the use of existing basins as much as possible. Realizing existing filtration basin capacity means more basins are available for us to use, which in turn increases the reliability of our supply and reduces the risk of cutting back that supply due to the age of the basins or the condition of the basins. We are in the process of conducting a comprehensive rehab program for our basins. 3 of the 14 basins have already been refurbished. There's 11 to go. With regards to the project, we completed the design earlier this year and issued a construction bid package for solicitation through our online procurement system on September 21st. We received 5 bids on November 2nd, and the results are shown on Table A of packet page 57. Pacific Hydro-Tech Corp was determined to be the lowest responsive bid at $1,869,600, which is approximately around $100,000 lower than the engineer's estimate. Before I proceed with reading the recommendation, there were a couple of questions and comments at the ENO committee regarding the funding of the project. As indicated in the fiscal impact section of the report shown on packet page 57, this project is proposed to be funded by debt financing, which is a broad term to reflect borrowing that may happen on a short-term or long-term basis. I'll take a minute here to discuss why debt financing. When considering funding sources for each capital project, engineering works with the finance department to evaluate the project and understand the nature of the project, its goal, and the useful life of the assets being built. We consider available paygo of funding against the needs of the current new infrastructure and R&R projects. Typically, new infrastructure projects that have a useful life of about 20 plus years is a good candidate for debt financing, whereas a shorter useful life project is a better candidate for paygo. Since this project is calling for new pieces of equipment that will potentially be used over the next 20 years, and in consideration of the other pending CIP projects, we have determined that debt financing would be more appropriate for this project at this time. Again, debt financing is a broad term for it could be short-term or long-term financing. So with that, I proceed with the reading of the recommendation. Staff recommends that the board authorizes the vendor and general manager to enter into an agreement with Pacific Hydrojet Corporation for the construction of the converted T22 booster pump project in the amount of $1,869,600 plus a 10% contingency for a total not to exceed contract amount of $2,056,560. I'll open up for questions.
Okay, well, thank you for that report. Tim, board, you've heard the report.
I'll move the recommendation.
Yes, we have a motion on the floor by Director Deere to approve staff's recommendation. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the report be recommendation by staff be approved.
Yes.
And we'll do discussion. Yes. Second, Director Houston. Okay. No questions?
No, I have.
No comments? Go ahead.
This one,
We can't hear you.
this project did get moved from the ENO committee to the board without recommendation. And the staff has said it is a net new project. At the ENO committee, we did have discussion on whether this project was necessary at this point, or could be deferred for another year or two. There is very significant impact by deferring the project another year or two. The project is being financed through debt financing. It is a net new project building additional improvements to the NC Little facility at a time when we don't know what the situation is going to be with the NC Little facility within a few years. On July 15, 2019, the city of Los Angeles sent a letter to West Basin, effectively putting West Basin in notice that as of July 2nd, 2026, there would be no water supply available. And then on July 26th of 2021, we had a follow-up letter from the city of Los Angeles restating the July 15, 2019 letter that as of 2026, there would be no water available for the NC Little plant. In the interim, there are ongoing discussions to extend it. We don't know what those conditions will be, and who will be operating the NC Little plant in the event that we don't have any water. I think it is an imprudent investment right now to invest in long-term in net new improvements at that plant without having a solid foundation for water available post 2026, and that it would be imprudent to further incur additional debt financing for those improvements, which will then have to be repaid whether we are producing water at that plant. So I don't think that this is a action that we should go forward with. It's an ill-advised recommendation that's shown before us, and moving forward with it is incurring long-term debt, putting us in a position of having to raise water rates at some future date to cover that debt, and all for something we don't know what the situation is going to be. So this project will defer for another year, and we've had better assurances of whether we're going to have an additional water supply for 5 years beyond 2026 or 20 years beyond 2026. We can make a much better informed decision. But with the information we have in front of us today, this is not a prudent investment to me. So I will make a substitute motion that we reject all bids.
Go ahead. Is the motion seconded? I didn't hear a second. Motion by Squawk, second. Just President Williams, there's a motion and a second on the floor. So the motion on the floor is to approve staff's recommendation. Now, and we'll have a discussion. There's a substitute motion introduced for lack of a second. So now only what's on the table to now is the original motion. So I'll call for the question. The director, I'm sorry, Director Ray.
Yes, I just had a question. I could kind of barely understand everything Director Alvarez said, but was this shared with the general manager before this item came to the board?
Yes, it was. This item was discussed at the previous Engineering Operations Committee. Director Alvarez did make us aware of his concerns related to the item. At that time, he did recognize that there were certain risks of postponing a project like this, but without the certainty of a long-term agreement with the City of Los Angeles, as well as the use of debt financing, he did express his concerns. Staff maintained
Okay, thank you.
recommendation.
All right.
Now, this process is nothing new. This is the process been using for as long as I've been on the board, and I think it was being used long before I got on the board. Now, although I do have some concerns about the availability of recycled water in the future because of what's happening in our region with the two big recycled water projects that are out there that are producing, I think is 150 million gallons a day for both plants. And they could very easily dwarf us, okay? But at the same time, we have some obligations out there that we have to meet. So I would support going forward with this project. So any other comments?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Director Houston.
Sure, thank you. I did have a couple of questions. Now, I didn't see it in the write-up, but how long does this project take if it got approved today from beginning to end?
We estimate Dr. Houston, we estimate the construction process will take a little over a year, about 14 months.
Okay. And then in Pacific Hydrotech Corporation, I'm not really familiar with them, but you know, the bid did come in lower than the engineer's estimate. But you guys have you worked with them before? You know, what kind of reputation do they have in the region?
They've done work for us recently. They worked on the Phase 3 Clearware Rehab project a few years ago. And more recently, the Chlorine Contact Basin project. Both were around $2 million projects, roughly speaking. And they've done good work with those two projects.
Okay, great. So we're familiar with them. And then I think the last thing is that I heard you mention about something about the future of MBR technology, and then maybe that was at Hyperion. I think you mentioned it, but can you restate that, or what was it you said again about the length of time you mentioned?
Absolutely. With the potential availability of MBR water from Hyperion, West Basin would not necessarily need the filtration basins that we operate today. But 10 of the 14 filtration basins were built originally as part of Phase 1, and then 4 as part of Phase 4. Those were converted over. These facilities have aged, and they have taken a beating with the different type of water quality that we see from Hyperion. And so with MBR being still a few years away, we need to rely on our filtration basins as much as possible. And to rely on them, meaning we want to take advantage of every single basin that we have available. And this project allows us to do so. It puts into play 3 additional basins, which will help us more reliably secure that water coming out of the plant.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have one last question. With all things being equal, or with those 2 regional plants I mentioned, the one from City of LA and no, not that one, but the other one that they're working with WRD. Okay, that plant, when will that plant be online?
Chris Williams, I'm not exactly sure. So you have the Hyperion?
The Hyperion plant working with WRD.
So their plan is to recycle 100% of the water there at Hyperion, and hopefully get it out within the West Coast and Central groundwater basins, as well as take it up to potentially a drinking water facility for raw water augmentation, which is a DPR project. And it is, if you look at the timing of that, of Operation Next, I've heard anywhere from 2036 to 2045 and beyond.
Okay, what about the plant that Metropolitan Water and the LA Sand District LA County Sand District is working on now, the regional plant?
It's roughly the same timeframe. They're a little bit ahead, but roughly speaking, around the same timeframe.
So it's a little ways out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. All right. Any other questions? Then since we have a motion on the floor, it's moved and seconded, I'll call for the question.
Director Alvarez. No. Director Dew.
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes.
Director Houston. Yes. President Williams.
Yes.
And for clarity purposes, I do know that Director Alvarez did vote. Your microphone wasn't on, but I did want to note for the record that your vote was no. Hooray. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next item.
Yes, President Williams. This item is something that was directed by the, I believe it's the Public Information Education Committee. We had an opportunity to discuss water demand usage in the West Basin service area. And at that time, we talked about specific actions taken, not only throughout the state of California, but also regionally. As you'll recall, Governor Newsom did declare a statewide emergency throughout the state. And of course, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California just adopted its regional drought declaration. And for that reason, staff is bringing before you resolution number 11-21 2021-1143 to activate the shortage level 2 or 3 of the 2021 water shortage contingency plan. You might recall that we're currently in a stage 1, and for this presentation, we do have Matthew Bay, our water policy analyst, for this presentation.
Great. Thank you, EJ. Members of the board, I'll be just going through some things here before we present kind of the options to you in today's action. So California, as we all know, is deep into a second year of drought, and federal climate experts are all pretty much projecting that a third year of significantly dry weather will continue into the next year. I was on a call today with the NOAA where they continue to say that while the Pacific Northwest could see additional precipitation this year, California, due to La Nina conditions, will continue to see drier weather into the next year. For the last several months, water users throughout the state have been asked to voluntarily reduce their water use by 15% from 2020 levels. And for the 3-month period of July to September 2021, statewide water use has decreased by about 3.5%, with Southern California water use being down less than that at 2.5%. This demonstrates that we still have a long way to go to meet that target. Now, there's certainly some extent that we have demand hardening in our region. There could be drought fatigue that's happening with all Californians and Southern Californians. Locally, many of our West Basin communities are actually doing slightly better than the statewide and Southern California average. However, we're not close to that 15% goal right now. And there's some communities in our service area that have struggled to achieve any conservation for those first 3 months. Now, it should be noted that per capita potable water use in the West Basin service area, I mentioned this at the PI committee last month, is down 33% since 2000 and close to 40% down since 1990. So over the last 30 years, it's come down significantly. And our communities continue to become more water efficient each and every year, thanks to the board's continued investments in our water efficiency programs and our dedication to reaching out to our communities through conservation outreach. In July, recognizing the serious nature of the drought and also the calls from the governor to reduce 15%, the West Basin Board of Directors proactively and was one of the first Southern California agencies to do so, authorized the district to activate its water shortage contingency plan and to move into a shortage level 1, which is the first of 6 shortage levels in our contingency plan. As a result of that action, West Basin began developing and implementing a drought outreach campaign, expanded upon some of its water efficiency programs, including the board direction to reallocate some funding into the grass replacement disadvantaged communities program, which is now known as the Grass Replacement Plus program, which will begin to roll out next month. And we also applied for grant funding to further expand upon our conservation programs into the next year. In particular, grass replacement rebates are at or will soon be at all-time highs in our region. And so West Basin really has an opportunity here to continue to grow the adoption of water efficient landscapes in our region. West Basin also has been called out positively by Metropolitan Water District for shifting its operations to take water from the Colorado River instead of from the State Water Project as a means of helping MWD and other member agencies who are dependent on the State Water Project. This response to our drought outreach campaign, which you might have seen last week, it was launched last week, Supercalifragilistic, has been very encouraging so far. We've seen multiple media reach out to us to do stories, as well as many of our cities and retail agencies have also asked us to provide updates in the future, in the new year, about the drought at public meetings, at city council meetings. So we really feel like this shows a general increase in awareness of what's going on, and people are starting to come on board with the fact that we've got a situation here that everybody needs to kind of rally behind in saving water. So at future committee meetings, the board will continue to be updated by Amy Rocha, our communications manager, on the progress and the results of the campaign. As I said, it just rolled out last week, but there will be continued opportunities to hear how that campaign is going and where we might want to take it in the future. So since the board's action in July to activate the water shortage contingency plan, several additional state and regional actions have occurred. Drought emergencies have now been declared in all 58 counties in the state, including all 6 counties within the metropolitan service area. In August, the first ever shortage was declared on the Colorado River Basin, which will result in cutbacks to Nevada, Arizona, and Mexico. Also in August, Metropolitan declared a water supply alert, calling on consumers and businesses in the region to voluntarily reduce their water use to help preserve regional water storage supplies. And then earlier this month, Metropolitan followed that up by declaring a regional drought emergency, building upon its previous actions with new calls for mandatory actions from its member agencies that are exclusively or heavily dependent on the state water project. Metropolitan also is applying for grants to expand their water efficiency programs and is actually offering some new and expanded water efficiency programs that member agencies will be able to take advantage of. And then finally, Metropolitan has indicated that it expects to receive a 0% initial state water project allocation next year, which would be the lowest ever. So based on the continued drought conditions, the state and regional actions by Metropolitan, and there's just a clear need to continue working toward achieving that 15% water use reduction in our service area, staff is asking the board to now consider moving to a higher shortage level of the water shortage contingency plan. So as EJ mentioned, we're currently at level 1. There's a total of 6 standard shortage levels in our contingency plan. And as part of today's action, we're going to ask the board to consider 2 options, to either declare a level 2 or a level 3 shortage. Either action will build upon the current level 1 shortage measures that we're taking. However, we feel that the level 1 shortage is no longer in line with the current conditions, the drought conditions, and also the actions that have been taken by Metropolitan in the state in the last month or so. So moving to a shortage level 2 would indicate a more gradual, a more measured approach, whereas we feel a level 3 shortage declaration would demonstrate a more aggressive, a more proactive approach that anticipates what we expect and what the experts are saying would be continued challenges into 2022. We also feel that basically skipping a level would be more likely to grab the attention of our retail agencies in the service area. So to put it into more perspective, a level 2 shortage is for shortage conditions that are between 10 and 20%. This aligns a little more closely with what the state's asking for, 15%. It's kind of right in the middle of that range, their conservation target. On the other hand, a level 3 shortage is for shortage conditions that are between 20 up to 30%. So that is slightly above the 15% state target. But again, if we're expecting conditions to continue to worsen into next year, it could serve to further raise awareness that we need to do this, we need to use less water. Moving to a level 3 would also signal, again, we do not expect conditions to improve next year. And so we're taking more of that proactive and approach to really go after those actions from our residents and to work with our retailers to make it happen. And looking at some of the other water agencies that have taken action recently in Southern California, many seem to be moving into either level 1 or level 2 shortages. However, there are some that are taking more aggressive actions by moving to level 3 shortages, although so far those only seem to be the agencies with a high dependence on the state water project supplies. So for West Basin, the main difference between a level 2 and a level 3 declaration is the types of communication activities that are connected to each level. Levels 1 and 2, we designed our contingency plan to share similar tactics, whereas moving up to a level 3 and 4 share similar tactics. So it is an increase between levels 2 and 3. in comparing level 2 and 3 communication protocols, the following differences I wanted to kind of point out to you on what a level 3 would get us versus a level 2. So level 3 messaging and themes and branding messages would be more serious in nature. Instead of a voluntary, which we're kind of at right now, we should do this, we should save water, it becomes more of a serious, more of a mandatory, we must do this or we need to do this. We would also want to evaluate and implement additional resources into our non-English speaking parts of our service area. So looking at doing additional website changes to the website, putting out ads, putting out emails to those parts of our community that don't speak English as a first language. We would also want to do a deeper dive into the websites of our cities, all 17 cities, as well as the retail agencies of their websites to, one, make sure that they're communicating conservation on their websites, but then also to ensure that their messages are consistent with what West Basin and Metropolitan are saying in terms of the drought. Our social media would also transition to more of a serious message instead of going from voluntary, again, to more of a mandatory conservation tone. And then we would also be looking at considering additional print and digital advertising opportunities throughout the region that we could either do on our own or potentially we could explore in partnership with other agencies. We would also want to increase our efforts to proactively present drought and other programmatic information at civic and public events. Again, we've already seen some interest from some of our cities, but we might want to hold our own town halls or hold elected official forums, things of that nature, to bring kind of the information to different parts of our service area. And then finally, the last one I wanted to mention was we would want to explore expanding our media communications efforts. This could include opinion pieces, letters to the editors, other things that other strategies that we want to look at to convey that more serious message. Now, with all that said, the way that our contingency plan is structured, there's nothing that prevents us from taking some of the communications tactics from level 3 and applying them to a level 2 declaration. That's one of the reasons why our contingency plan is nice the way it's set up, because it's very flexible in that regard. So with that said, I wouldn't recommend that we take all level 3 actions and implement them at level 2, because at that point it might just be more appropriate to declare level 3 if you want those actions in that kind of response. But again, we do have that flexibility to take some from one and apply them to the other situation. As I already kind of mentioned before, there is some sense of demand hardening and drought fatigue in our service area that we'll continue to want to look at. That will make achieving more conservation more difficult. It will also determine how much effort and resources we have to put into getting that additional 5–10%. There's also the potential financial impacts that come with that and implementing a more aggressive outreach strategy. We have a certain budget that we have in the normal years, but we could look, we could need to look for more funding in order to support some of these more aggressive outreach strategies and efforts. Just a few more things that I wanted to talk about. West Basin does have the authority to implement mandatory water reductions through its drought rationing plan. However, there's no plan to activate that at this time. Any mandatory actions would be reserved for the future should drought conditions worsen or should Metropolitan implement its water supply allocation plan. Metropolitan has said because of the type of situation we're in, where it's only part of their service area that's impacted, the state water project suppliers, they're not likely to implement that in the near future. So to summarize, staff supports an action to move to a higher shortage level of our water source contingency plan and to continue building upon our current efforts by activating additional communication protocols that we can use to reach our various stakeholders, including our customer agencies, our cities, the business community, and then also the media, local media. And staff is very supportive of whatever direction the board decides is best to follow. And we will work together with the PI team, with all of our teams to implement the appropriate measures that are based on whatever shortage level you decide to declare today. So before you today is a resolution that would set this plan into motion and would instruct staff to continue kind of escalating our efforts to communicate important critical information to the public and to continue offering additional water efficiency programs to our service area. That concludes my report, and myself, the general manager, are available for questions. We also have our communications manager, Amy Rocha, here today, who can speak to any of the communications efforts that you might have questions about.
Thank you very much for that report. You've given us a lot here. So I see the director Dieter had his hand up first.
Yeah, I'm asking the general manager and Matthew. I'm confused why we have two recommendations. Which one is the recommendation? What are you recommending to us? Resolution 1 or 2 or what's numbered here? Option 1 or option 2? Which is it?
Director Deere, I think taking the comments that we've received from the board, specifically the individual committees, and we go back to the most recent public information education committee. The question was how do we get the word out there and how do we impress upon the public and within our retailers the need to conserve and the need to conserve now. Obviously, stage 2 is the next step within our water shortage contingency plan. But if you really wanted to make a very strong declaration here, a level 3 could be in order. Staff is prepared to handle this any way you'd like. If you go into the level 2, as Matt just mentioned, we can incorporate some of the same communication tools. It really is just what's the message that you would like to send to the public. So I think from staff's perspective, a level 2 would suffice, and we can continue to really make the motion, or excuse me, the note to our communities that they need to conserve. But if the board wanted to take a hard stance today, a level 3 would be in order.
I want to listen to discussion first. Okay, Director Alvarez.
This board did look at the emerging situation with the drought several months ago, and was one of
Speak up a little bit.
can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. This board did take a very proactive position several months ago in anticipation of the drought, or not anticipation, in light of the drought, and in anticipation of the fact that the drought is probably going to be around for an extended period of time, and that the water situation in terms of imported water supplies to Southern California from either the State Water Project or the Colorado River is not going to be the same reliable source of supply as we've experienced for the last 60, 80 years. And we did need to take a proactive stance in getting the public aware of the situation, and we put into effect the level 1. But since that time, most of the constituents that I talk to in my area are still not very aware of the fact that they're aware there's a drought because they read about it, but they're not really aware of the fact of the need to do serious water conservation. And the state of California, even though the government has asked for a 15% reduction in water usage, has failed to meet that. There's a few counties in Northern California that have achieved that, but statewide, the overall water reduction is about 3.6%. So it's not very much. The public is not very well aware of it. So I would support that we implement the level 3, and I would move that we adopt the resolution of the board activating the shortage level 3. I think it would send a much stronger message, and it really just sends a message, and hopefully will make the public much more aware of it. We have a lot of other programs that help the public conserve water. They need to avail themselves of that, and they need to just become much more proactive in the way they use water. So I think a level 3 action would be the way to go. For that reason, I would move that we adopt the resolution implementing level 3.
That's you just made a motion.
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that the board adopt option number 2. Is there any further discussion about your Director Houston?
Sure. Thank you. No, I agree fully that we should go with option number 2 here, but a level 3 when it comes to our water shortage contingency plan. And when I saw this, and I hear some of the comments already made, and I also read this over the weekend, but I agree. I think this is an all hands on deck type of moment. I think this is where West Basin should be out front and center, making sure that we are using every tool at our disposal to inform our jurisdiction of the seriousness of this drought. And why would we just do an incremental step and then come back and have to do more later? Why not just get moving forward now? And so I share what has been said, especially by Director Alvarez, because in my area Division 4, I would say my residents are extremely cognizant of what's going on, and they've been anxious and kind of wanting to know, how we're responding. So I think this, at the end of the day, allows our staff to move forward and express how serious this is and how we need the public to take it seriously. So fully support it, and think that once we pass it, it should be implemented right away.
Okay. Director Gray?
No comment. I'm listening. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then I support option 2. And I've always thought that we need to be out there. We need to be out there because most of the folks out there don't get their information concerning water from us. They get it from TV, and they're hearing it from coming as far away as the regional, California Regional Water Board is where they're getting their information. And I think it needs to come from us. And I think we need to be out there full force, and so that they know what we are here for them, and we are their first line for getting information concerning water, what water reliability is, and our drive to make California a state where water conservation is the way of life. So I would support option 2 as well. So with that, I'll call the question.
Director Alvarez.
Yes.
Director Deere.
Yes.
Director Gray.
Yes.
Director Houston. President Williams.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much, President Williams. And let me tell you that the direction from the board is heard loud and clear by staff, and we will do everything we can to conserve water at this time.
Very good. But I didn't hear your slogan though. You didn't lead with that.
Oh, the supercalifragilistic will be out in our communities. You'll see it everywhere.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next item.
Yes, President Williams, the next item that we have is item 8C. It is a resolution number 11-21-1144. This would reauthorize the Brown Act provisions for virtual meetings. And for this item, we do have our legal counsel here related to this resolution.
Thank you, Jay. President Williams and directors. The board has proclaimed a state of emergency and has adopted the necessary resolution at a prior meeting to continue virtual meetings under the new provisions of the Brown Act. This is simply a reauthorization every 30 days. We will bring this item probably on consent next time, but we just wanted to highlight it to you at this time that every 30 days you need to evaluate, and as long as the state of California has a state of emergency in place, as long as the county is recommending social distancing and masking, you have grounds to make your findings and to continue to provide public access via Zoom, protecting the public, yourselves, and staff. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Questions?
This is Director Houston. I'll move the item.
It's been moved by Director Houston that you approve staff's recommendation. Second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Director Deere. Questions? Then we'll call for the vote.
Yes, Director Alvarez,
Yes.
Director Deere, yes. Director Gray,
Here. Yes.
Director Houston,
Yes.
President Williams.
Yes. Okay, that moves us to the next item.
Yes, President Williams, the next item that we have is item 8D, approval of unit price increases for supply and delivery of chemicals by JCI Jones Chemical Incorporated. This item was originally added to the full board meeting for ratification of actions taken by the board of directors. Since that time, we actually received additional letters from JCI recognizing that there are additional chemicals with increased prices. As such, we want to be prepared and bring this item to you for some authority to engage with JCI and agree for amendments to those existing chemical contracts. For this item, we do have Susanna Lee, our Senior Operations Engineer, for the presentation.
Thank you, EJ. Good afternoon, President Williams and members of the board and public. Hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
And as the board has been made aware through staff's regular updates throughout this year, the supply chain issue has now resulted in price increase requests from a supplier for 3 of the chemicals. The 3 chemicals in discussions include sodium bisulfite, sodium hydroxide, and sodium hypochlorite. Their specific applications in our recycled water operations are detailed in memo page 82 and 83. In summary, chemicals play an intricate role in ensuring the recycled water that West Basin produce not only meet customers but permit requirements. And it would put a halt to recycled water operations should any of these chemicals are not available. And for your reference, the board approved 3 agreements with JCI Jones, the supplier for the 3 aforementioned chemicals, back in May 2021 after a competitive bid process for the fiscal year 2021-2022. The 3 agreements expired on June 30th, 2022. All these 3 chemicals use similar processes and raw materials as part of the manufacturing process. In a letter dated October 16, 2021, JCI's requested price adjustments for 2 chemicals due to the significant price increase of chlorine and caustic soda by their supplier. Chlorine and caustic soda, for your reference, are used to manufacture these chemicals supplied by JCI. A copy of the price request letter can be found in attachment A. In a separate letter dated November 16, 2021, JCI has subsequently requested price increase for sodium bisulfite, which can be found in attachment B. The staff have been informing the board regularly as a result of the pandemic, the Southwest record freezing winter, and the loud labor shortage issue. Now this has been a shifting worldwide supply and demand of raw materials and the reductions in the number of suppliers in the United States, and which now has resulted in the request in chemical price increase. Table 1 lists the increases in unit price effective November 15th for sodium hypochlorite and sodium hydroxide, and November 24th for sodium bisulfite. The unit price increase ranged from 15% to 56%. Furthermore, JCI has also noted these unit prices are valid for only 3 months as the chlor-alkali producers are not currently providing prices for delivery beyond the 3 months time frame. The proposed unit price will have to be assessed again in February 2022, and we may require additional adjustments should the material costs continue to increase. Subsequent and immediately after JCI's October 26th pricing increase request, West Basin staff reached out to vendors who proposed during the March 2021 solicitation for sodium hydroxide and sodium hypochlorite. Most of the vendors that responded were either not able to support West Basin's needed quantities, or the unit price were even higher than the increased prices proposed by JCI. These are similar responses that SUEZ had received during the June sodium hypochlorite shortage, when SUEZ reached out to vendors for additional supplies. In addition to reaching out to suppliers and vendors, staff also sought advice from legal counsel and presented options to the board. Staff was directed by the board to accept the adjusted 3 months prices for sodium hydroxide and sodium hypochlorite deliveries, and to proceed with amendments to the respective West Basin JCI agreements. In response to the November 16 JCI price increase request for sodium bisulfite, staff is also requesting that the board approve an amendment to agreement for the supply and delivery of sodium bisulfite. Given staff assessment for the current chemical market and the current supply chain issues and the criticality of the chemicals to West Basin's recycled water operations, staff recommends that West Basin adjust its chemical unit prices to meet the current market conditions. West Basin staff intends to go out to bid by the end of the first quarter 2022, while also evaluating the stability of the chemical market. West Basin requires these chemicals to serve our recycled water program, and we cannot risk a situation where there are no bids to be received. Therefore, staff will monitor the situation carefully and keep the board informed. The chemical market is currently highly volatile, and many water agencies, including US EPA, are trying to address these issues. Finally, based on the projected sales, the proposed new unit rates for the chemicals, the increase in unit prices will result in an estimated increase of approximately $450,000 in chemical costs for the 3-month period. As stated in the memo under fiscal impact, funds for the supply and delivery of the 3 chemicals are included in the current year operation budgets. Budget of $3.94 million for the 3 chemicals were included as part of the total $10.28 million chemical budget. The estimated increase in chemical expenditure will be funded through the chemical budget set for this fiscal year, because as actual chemical expenditure for the first quarter have been below the first quarter budgeted amount. So actual chemical expenditure has been lower during this first quarter, primarily due to recycled water production cutbacks and prolonged use of the supplement potable water due to the Hyperion upset in July. Staff will update the board in February and assess the chemical expenditures and any additional increases for the remainder of the fiscal year and contract term. Should there be a need for additional chemical expenditure that will be not met by this current year fiscal operation budget, we may be met by using the West Basin Reserve. With this, I will read the recommendation that the board authorize the interim general manager to amend agreement W2967 for the supply and delivery of sodium hydroxide to reflect an increase in unit price to $0.4115 per dry pound for all sodium hydroxide deliveries for November 15th, 2021 to February 15th, 2022, and amendment W2968 for the supply and delivery of sodium hypochlorite to reflect the increase in unit price to $0.993 per gallon for all sodium hypochlorite deliveries from November 15, 2021 to February 15, 2022, and to amend Agreement W2966 for supply and delivery of sodium bisulfite to reflect an increase in unit price to $0.4081 per dry pound for all sodium bisulfite deliveries beginning November 24, 2021. And finally, to approve potential additional chemical unit price increases for supply and delivery of sodium hydroxide, sodium hypochlorite, and sodium bisulfite during the period between February 16, 2022 and June 30th, 2022, and then amend agreements W2967, W2968, and W2966 as necessary to reflect the potential additional increases in unit price through June 30th, 2022. At the discretion of interim general manager, should any additional increases be deemed unreasonable, staff will return to the board for direction. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, well, thank you for your report. Is there, what's the pleasure of the board?
That's actually the wrong word to use because there's no pleasure in raising these rates, but apparently we're kind of stuck. We have to do it. It's prudent to do it, so I'll make the motion to approve the motion. I'll move that we approve the motion. The
Staff
recommendation.
recommendation?
Yes.
Is there a second? There's a second by Director Houston. So we will call for questions.
And President Williams, if I might add just one point of clarity, I just want to make sure that the board is aware. So items A and B, this would be ratifying previous actions taken by the board of directors. Item C is in response to a letter that we received subsequent to the previous action. And item D would allow some authority within the interim general manager to respond to future letters if they seem reasonable as far as the pricing increases. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that prior to taking action.
Are you aware of that, Director Gear?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
And Director Houston? Yes. So then we will call for the question.
Director Alvarez. Yes. Director Deere.
Yes.
Director Gray. Director Gray. Director Houston. And President Williams.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0 with one not voting.
Okay, so that takes us to the next item, which would be item number 9. Is that correct?
That is correct, President Williams. We do not have any items on our information calendar.
Then next we'll go to item number 10, which is receive and file. I'll entertain a motion to, what motion?
We receive and file all of item 10.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that receive and file. Roll call, please.
Director Alvarez. Yes. Director Deere.
Yes.
Director Gray. Director Houston. President Williams.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0 with one not voting.
So then that takes us to number 11, which is the general manager's activity report.
Yes, thank you very much, President Williams. I do have quite a bit of information here that I would like to present, but I'll try to move through it as quickly as possible. I'll also email this out to the board of directors afterwards. First and foremost, and we've talked about this on several occasions over the past several months, a great deal of credit goes to our engineering and operations team in dealing with the incident that took place at Hyperion. We do have some good news to report today. We have stopped using potable water at the ECL facility as well as our satellite facilities. We stopped additional potable supplements at ECL on Wednesday, November 10th for our Title 22. This was a big step and related to the pretreatment clarifier cleanouts. So again, just always responding to the water quality and the needs of the facility. At our Juanita Milano McDonald facility, we stopped potable water supplements at the end of October. In Torrance, we stopped the potable water supplements for nitrified at the end of October. We still utilize some for the boiler feed, but we're getting there, especially with once we get those the new membranes included there. Chevron, we've reduced potable water for both boiler feed and nitrified, reducing potable water to the nitrified system each day slowly, but this is a work in progress. So we're continuing to do the best that we can, and again, I can't say it enough, thank you so much to our operations team. Number two, West Basin received a certificate of recognition for the city of Carson for the city regional water recycling plant and was recognized for our full compliance with all Los Angeles County Sanitation District's industrial waste requirements. Number three, in addition to holding a board secretary general certification from the California Special Districts Association and a certified municipal clerk designation, our board secretary, Julie Fraser Matthews, recently completed advanced coursework and was awarded her board secretary master certification from the California Special Districts Association.
All right, congratulations.
She's always working, though.
Okay, one second, let him know. I have Director Gray on the phone. She did vote yes, but she can't get her phone unmuted.
Okay.
So she voted yes on the consent as well as the chemicals.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Director Gray.
I just announced it.
Number four, I want to report this morning I attended virtually the Cal Diesel Executive Committee, and I wanted to report back because I know most of you know that Wendy Ritterbush, the Executive Director, did submit her resignation. They did implement a significant and well-concerted effort to find a new Executive Director, and they made their selection. It was ratified by the Executive Board today. Glenn Farrell, who's a lobbyist previously with the San Diego County Water Authority. He left their organization and now leads up Glenn Farrell Advocacy, and he'll serve as the executive director along with Steve Cruz Strategies. And Steve Cruz is also a lobbyist in Sacramento. So it seems like a good team in order to make the case, obviously, for desalination, not just ocean, but of course brackish. The next item, the Government Finance Officers Association awarded the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award to West Basin MWD for its fiscal year 2021-2022 annual operating budget. And this is comprised of several different aspects of the work that we received or performed, including government unit must publish a budget document that meets program criteria as a policy document, as a financial plan, and as an operations guide and a communication device. So again, great work there by our finance team. The next item I would like to report
Before
is...
you go there, just,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I wasn't clear on the last part of your report concerning Cal Diesel.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, could you go back to that?
So when Wendy Ritterbush put in her resignation, she offered to assist Cal Diesel as far as finding a new executive director. And so they put together a working group and they went out, they put out an RFP and a notice for that position, and they did make their selection. They hired two people to take on all the roles of the executive director, but I believe Glenn Farrell will be serving as the lead. He is a lobbyist. He represented the San Diego County Water Authority for some time. And so he'll be taking kind of the lead role. And then Steve Cruz, who leads up Steve Cruz Strategies, will be serving also with him as far as implementing a lot of the committee structure or meetings that Cal Diesel will be taking up in the future. So it'll be a dual effort. Both of them will be on hand at Aqua. Cal Diesel does host a reception on, I believe it's Wednesday evening. And of course, they'll be there and they'll make a formal announcement at that event.
Okay, you made some comment concerning brackish and
ocean. Well, a lot of people feel,
water.
yeah, a lot of people feel that when you have Cal Diesel, that it's only focused on ocean water desalination. But of course, they also work on brackish desalination and salt management. So there are a lot of aspects that Cal Diesel takes care of it and works works for on behalf of the industry. And related to ocean water desalination, that's a small part of it in the bigger picture.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So I also want to report that just last Thursday, President Williams and myself attended the South Bay City Council of Governments Board of Directors meeting. At that time, we did give a presentation related to the drought, as well as the different programs that we have to offer the communities that we serve. And West Basin staff will be putting together a response email to their executive director, Jackie Bacharach, today with all of the related materials that she can assist us as far as getting out to our cities. Also requesting that the members of the board of directors reach out to our board of directors for presentations in each of their cities, and also alert them to the action that was taken today by the West Basin Board of Directors, moving us into a stage level 3. So we'll include that in our board memo. Moving on, I would like to just provide a quick update on several of our ad hoc committees. We have been very busy over the past couple months. The Brewer DeSalter ad hoc met on Monday, November 15th. We provided a brief update on several different activities, and the agreement to purchase the Brewer well is actually now in the hands of the Water Refreshment District, and I've been told that we should be receiving it very shortly. So my goal is to get it done and signed and everything before the holidays. So we're just waiting to get it back from the Water Replenishment District. And our next meeting is next Tuesday, November 30th. The City of Los Angeles Ad Hoc Committee did meet on Friday, November 12th. At that time, staff was given direction. Staff will be meeting with LODWP staff tomorrow. And we will be hosting our next meeting on Friday, December 3rd. Last but not least, the DESAL Ad Hoc Committee, we're working right now to schedule a meeting. We hope to bring a presentation to the full board at the full board meeting December 22nd, but we hope to bring the DESAL Ad Hoc in for a meeting prior to that board meeting. Last but not least, I'm going to do a quick overview of some of the upcoming committee meetings because I know that there might have been some confusion. Our MWD caucus meeting is scheduled for December 8th at 12:30. Due to scheduling with the career conference, we did have the engineering and operations committee originally scheduled for Wednesday, December 8th. We're now moving back to December 15th, which I believe would be the normal day and time of the month for that committee meeting. Our Public Information and Education Committee will be held on Thursday, December 9th. Our Water Policy and Legislation Committee will be held on December 21st. Our F&A Committee will be held on Wednesday, December 22nd. Actually, it's being moved to the 20th, and that is to accommodate an item that was previously adopted by the board today to move the full board meeting to December 22nd at 1 p.m. And there is one thing that I could request of the board of directors today, just some input. Most of you know that November 30th through December 2nd will be the upcoming Aqua Fall Conference. During the lunch hour on that Thursday, the Association of California Water Agencies will be hosting its board meeting there at the Aqua Conference. And as part of that, they'll be voting on the president and vice president of Aqua. Most of you do know that running for president of Aqua is the current vice president, Pam Tobin. Also, Kathy Green is seeking the vice presidential position. West Basin's board of directors did adopt a resolution in support of her candidacy. I have reached out to several people to find out if there would be a floor nomination, and it does not appear as though there would be a floor nomination. In order to vote at the Aqua board meeting, a proxy needs to be submitted to the Association of California Water Agencies by this week. And so in previous years, the general manager has gone to that meeting. It's after lunch to serve as the proxy. But at this time, if there's a board member that would like to attend that meeting, obviously I'm happy to put in the paperwork for them to attend and vote. If not, I'm happy to do it as well.
Mr. Chair, may I respond?
Yes, you. Yeah.
Yes. I represent Aqua. I represent West Basin on Aqua, and certainly support the slate, which includes Pam and Kathy. And EJ is correct. We've adopted the resolution to support Kathy. So I would certainly I would recommend EJ or myself. So if EJ can attend, that's fine. But I just want to reiterate my support for both ladies. But I recommend EJ attend it. Is that a special meeting, EJ, or is it during lunch?
It's after lunch. So after lunch is dismissed, there's another additional hour period. I think they do a JPI presentation and then they do the election.
Yeah, I would recommend EJ to be there. I think I have another conflicting appointment. But so that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have to vote on that or just?
In the past, we've only taken action when a specific vote has been contemplated. In this case, it appears that there's only one person running for vice president, one person running for president.
Okay.
All right, Mr. President, I'm pleased to see that the women are taking these executive roles more and more. As I said before, I think the 21st century is going to be the century of women. They haven't got total equality in terms of opportunities in various organizations, but certainly they do a progressive job in West Basin.
Yes. Okay. So
with that, I'm happy to attend. I just didn't know if anybody else wanted to attend. It's just a formality, I think.
No, I'm good with that because I don't know if I'll be around on that at that time frame. So thank you.
and you're not, I'm sure. Do you have a problem with EJ? Okay.
Okay, I'll wrap this up by just pointing out, we do also have the Colorado River Water Users Association Conference. That is December 14th through the 16th. And lastly, our upcoming holidays, most of you know, and happy Thanksgiving holiday week. The offices will be closed this Thursday as well as Friday. So we hope that all of the families associated with West Basin Municipal Water District Board of Directors as well as staff have a great holiday weekend.
All righty. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I speak?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. EJ, could you give me those dates for December that you said? I know Julie will provide in calendar, but do you mind giving me the dates to give the board again the dates?
Yes. So the upcoming board and committee meetings, we do have our MWD caucus meeting December 8th. We have our engineering and operations committee on December 15th. We have our public information and education committee on December 9th. We have our water policy and legislation committee on December 21st. We have our finance and administrative committee on December 20th. And last but not least, we have our West Basin Board of Directors meeting on December 22nd.
Thank you.
And Director Gray, we'll email that out. You'll see it in your GM comments as well as your calendars as well. So we'll get that out.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's the end of your report, Mr. General Manager?
It is.
Okay, that takes us to item 13, which is the compliance reporting.
I also have a brief report, President Williams. General Counsel.
I have these circles here saying that you're, I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you, President Williams and board members. I'll keep it very brief. Dovetailing on what EJ just said, we have to receive during this meeting a executed copy of the SOPA law, WRD, and we will have it executed before I leave here today and send it back to them. EJ and I will sign it.
Thank you for that.
We spent last month working with staff on the JCI contracts and providing review and dealing with that whole situation, as well as an item that will probably be coming to you at the next board meeting, and that is the work that pertains to the PCL warranties on pump 5, 6, and 7. We'll be coming to you with some additional information on that. And a lot of the review and contract work on the PV pipeline projects and some of the other things that that the staff was working. We will have a full summary either emailed or provided to you physically after the meeting.
Okay.
And I thank you, and I wish everybody a very, very happy and peaceful Thanksgiving.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, so then we can now go to item 13, which is AB 1234 reporting. Director Houston.
Sure, this is Director Houston. I'll just go real quick. AB 1234 for this past month was on the 1st of November. I attended the Rio de Salter ad hoc meeting. On the 8th of November, the Metropolitan committee meetings virtually, and on the 9th, the Metropolitan board meeting virtually. So thank you.
Next.
I want to submit a written report, please.
Okay. Director.
Listen to report.
Director Gray.
No, thank you, Chair. I'll report once on my form, but I have nothing to report right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Standing here, nothing reportable. With that, then we'll move on to item 14, closed session. Any closed session? Okay. Oh, gee whiz, and that takes us to director's comments. We'll be done here in a short. Any comments?
I do, having, if I may, having heard the several awards that our district has garnered again, I want to thank the staff, because other people who make these awards possible, and we are really blessed by having a wonderful group of people working for us and with us, and congratulate them all for great work, making us look good. Thank you.
Ditto. Anyone else? Director. Go ahead, Director Gray.
Thank you. I just want to ditto what Don just said. We do have fantastic staff. We have a really good interim general manager, and staff continues to do a marvelous job, just wonderful job for the agency that makes us continue to function at a high level. And just to also wish staff happy Thanksgiving, and board members happy Thanksgiving. Have a safe holiday. So thank you.
Director Alvarez.
I have a wish question / comment. The results of the census are in, and I anticipate that we're really not going to be making many changes to the division boundaries, but we do need to take a formal action of that and report it to the county registrar's office. So I was wondering when that item's going to come back
for us.
Yes, Director Alvarez. So we do have an RFP that's out on the street. We're waiting for the proposals to come in. And I think I've reported it in previous committee meetings. What we've done is we've actually created an RFP with 2 specific processes that we would implement here at West Basin. The first would just be a simple overview of the West Basin service area and the individual 5 divisions in order to see that we're in compliance with both state and federal election laws. And once we do that, once we determine that, we have the opportunity to bring it to the board for a presentation and adoption to not do anything. And that would sever the agreement that we would have with the proponents. Or if the board of directors would like us to pursue potential redistricting, then we would move forward with an analysis of how we could redistrict. So it's trying to do it as simply and as cost effective as possible. And so we would be implementing that. I believe we'll have somebody on board in December.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sure. Real quick, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to echo the comments by my colleagues of congratulations to our staff and for the work you all do and getting recognized, and also congratulations to our board secretary, Julie, on that certification, right? It was a certification, I believe, from the special district, so congratulations on that. A couple of comments I just want to make was one, I really have to say I like the new ad campaign that our staff has been rolling out, this super califragilifrugalistic, and I was going to mess it up. I think it's just really great. It's quirky, it's creative. I've seen it already popping up in social media. I know that, you know, apparently it's gotten great play. I haven't even asked staff yet about it, and I know we get a report next month, but it just looks like we've hit the right note here. And so I think it's going to be very, you know, it just looks like it's going to play very well across our service area. And then on top of that, the action we took today, it'll help push that out as well. So, you know, I just want to say thank you on that. I wanted to mention just two things. You know, these are just things I went to, and not only 1, 2, 3, 4, but, you know, just in Division 4, it's great to start to see real life events are happening again, and I'm really happy to be back out and seeing, you know, our residents, our constituents. So in my area, we've had the Culver City Chamber of Commerce. They had the Women in Business Awards a couple of weeks ago. Very well attended, very highly accomplished women who have been recognized in Culver City for their businesses. Some of them have even opened up during the pandemic and have been successful. So that was really good to be there and see the folks there, as well as last week, the West Hollywood Chamber of Commerce had their Creative Business Awards in person in West Hollywood, and same story. I think everyone is very anxious in a safe way to get out and be present together, and these events have gone well, and it's just been a joy to do that representing West Basin as one of the board members and to see members of my area in person again. And those elected officials and others, I think we're all excited about that to get back to some sense of normalcy. Last but not least, I want to say the same thing. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. It's hard to believe it's already here. I think that we've gotten a lot of great work accomplished so far this year. We got another month to go. But I did get to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody and their families, and if people are traveling or if you're home, to, of course, stay safe. And I think the bigger thing I have to talk about now is to save water. So, anyway, just wanted to say all that, and thanks again for this good work, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
All righty. Thank you. With that, a lot has been said, so I won't repeat it. Again, ditto. And, but to you, Julie, congratulations. Keep up the good work. And your leadership is shining. So we like that. So with that, happy Thanksgiving, and eat as much as you can, as often as you can. So.
Thank you very much, everybody.